thought this topic, the language of leadership, I felt like leadership is such a complex and vast subject. What are we going to discuss? Rather than looking up to and decoding the leadership principles of people like Jeff Bezos, Dalai Lama, etc. We have great people here. I think the stories that they have is more practical, more exciting, and I think the learning that we can get from them would be extremely useful for any aspiring global leader. I personally do not bring much leadership expertise to the table, but what I do bring is tremendous amount of curiosity to learn from these phenomenal leaders who have done some great things on a global scale. When I looked at this panel, rather than pontificating by theoretical aspects of what this language is, which apparently there is no single language for leadership, I thought I'll take a little bit different approach. I had the privilege of talking to some of you, and I started doing, like a true consultant, my field research. Several interesting things came up. While on one side I'm talking to the great leaders, they are saying what great programs they have put together to promote leadership. On the other side, I'm getting a conflicting opinion saying that there is not enough support to help them become global leaders. They do not know which programs to align themselves to become a global leader. Will I lose my technical skills if I switch to a leadership path? So these are sort of the questions that came from the field. What we said was, rather than theoretically discussing about leadership, we will jump into stories, real life examples from these people that would really help you take home one or two things to really refine your approach in your quest towards attaining global leadership. Because at this level, you only need minor incremental refinements rather than us being preachy. So with that, let's get in. Maybe I'll start with you, sir. One of the things that a lot of engineers tell me is, is there a job description for leadership? And what is that? There's a lot of questions around what is leadership, how do I become leader? My question is there a job description for leadership?
JD is really mislead. I really dislike it. If you look at what a typical JD has, 10 things that you are expected to do, and the skills that you are expected to have. It doesn't really talk about potential, right? And therefore it really limits one, and it kind of sets a low bar. And if you look at bringing that down to the GIC leadership kind of a context, who sets the agenda there? It's really, the divisional engineering leaders and headquarters. They want to do something. It's really based on what they want to get done for their businesses. And the script gets developed, therefore, from their point of view. And the frustration from our side, the teams here, in many of the GICs, is that as we follow that script, we comply, or we feel not enough opportunities for us to grow, no bigger responsibilities, right? And in headquarters, the Koreans don't happen everywhere. So if we limit ourselves to the script from the headquarters, that's what happens, frustration. Every company has a purpose. And there is an expectation from every one of the teams or team members towards that. And nobody is going to stop you if you want to if you want to bring more value. If you want to set new benchmark for customer experience, who's going to say no to it, right? And if you want to develop better quality product, who's going to say no to it, right? That's what we fail to understand. So therefore, it is really our job to set our own aspirations. And JDs don't tell you that. And, don't teach you how to do that. And as you do that, you always find some Jeremys and Johns helping you from the corporate. If you liberate yourself and if you write your own job description, I really like a blank canvas myself. to write my own, and draw my own picture for my team and myself, as long as it meets the larger purpose of the organization. And as we do that, we self-empower ourselves. We find our own ways. We network. We find our support system, and therefore, JD is not something that I look forward to seeing, or I suggest my folks to look at. And what happens is,
sorry to interrupt, but how many of you here believe that you are a risk taker? I think that's a point you are getting into. Can you raise your hands if you believe you are a risk taker? We have a long way to go in this panel.
So going beyond JD is not about just risk taking. I have a personal incident. I was a principal consultant in Microsoft Consulting Services working out of Dubai, covering the English market. And my practice was not doing well at all. And P&L was bad, utilization was low, but my personal utilization was high enough. You don't want to be part of a team that is not looked down upon. And since I had few customers that were very loyal to me, and I thought, why don't I look for new opportunities for my team as well? As I started doing that, as they materialized, I also realized one more thing. Hey, I love business development as well. There can be good things that coming down the line for each one of us as we step outside the job description.
Got it.
And
perhaps, Deepak, you could chime in because you have looked at developing leadership within your company, not just from the standpoint of your existing ecosystem, but you're also creating, supporting startups and establishing accelerators to promote that. Maybe you could throw some light into your perspective on that.
Yeah, a couple of things. I'll probably take the cue from what Sarv talked about, right? It's defining that purpose. If you're really looking at leadership, and typically I've gone, we follow a principle, if you will, right? Where it is about doing a few things insanely well, right? It's about not saying yes to everything, but it's about what can you do well. A few things that you can do well. You pick 2 or 3 things and that you do very well in that, and you're much better off than necessarily saying I can do a bit of every project that exists in the company. Right? That's not the purpose of a GIC that you actually set up. So we kind of followed that practice, and then we also recognize in terms of having that divisional leadership where you can actually map your destiny to the end of the day, right? And that's where you start really putting together a global leadership role that can make a difference to the organization. To your point, yes, there are certainly, you can put leadership teams or programs together that you can do. But that only goes so far in terms of being able to bring the horse to a pond, if you will, and then you will have to really let the people take that from there.
Is the burden really on the engineer, Surya?
There is absolutely some of that.
I think of it this way. No one is going to give you leadership. It has to be from inside. And if I think about this session, if there's one thing that you can walk away with, and I look back at my own journey, I like simple acronyms that you can kind of measure things around. And I think of ICE, I for inspire. So when you're doing something, if leaders inspire. They say don't set small goals. It's really about not just defining the journey, but first starting with what is the inspiration. The C for communication, so people understand. I think we talked about networking, talked about how within an organization there are others who need to follow, need to support, need to do things. And then E for execution. At the end, if you're not delivering. So anything that you do, I think you have to think about in these 3 things. And I do think it is upon yourself. It is great to have access to great leaders, access to great training and development, to learn from other people and mentorship. But at the end, you own your career.
In similar lines, right? What can people here do outside their work to sort of position themselves as a leader? Do you have any thoughts on how they can develop themselves outside of work? Because there is an overly tilted expectation that leadership has to be learned at work. It may not be, right? So.
Well, that's definitely a good point, Vijay. What I'd go as far as saying is, for someone that's starting their career as an engineer and then to move on from that and take on leadership roles at whatever level it might be, right? It requires them to exercising a new set of muscles and a new set of skills, thinking a little differently, being more, having more empathy for those around them, being willing to take more risk, right? Putting themselves in situations where they're not as comfortable as they were, being more open to ambiguity, and definitely leadership is a team sport. So it's definitely about communicating and networking with others. So what I would say is there's an aspect of leaning in, right? I mean, there's a lot of talk about the lean-in philosophy. So stepping forward, putting yourself in an uncomfortable position, building more empathy, being able to understand the other person's point of view. I think these are all very critical leadership traits. So you can build in areas that are outside of work as well.
Okay. Let's take a quick poll. How many of you here believe that your company has solid leadership program to develop it? Raise your hands, please. You don't have to raise it if your boss is here. Give an honest opinion. Okay, a few hands went down. All right. So this is one topic that when I did the field research, right, it became very apparent. When I talked to you, you were passionate, you were empathetic, you were focusing on diversity, all the things that you are saying that the leadership development programs exist. But the engineer's view or the audience view, or the people like me who want to become global leader, right, is a little bit outside of that, or they are not in agreement with that. In general, why do you think there is that disconnect? Where are we going wrong?
Yeah, I think that there is no linear path. And to echo what Anita said, putting yourself into uncomfortable situations and testing yourself is probably the best way. So again, looking for a scaffolding to support your career is not, I don't think that's the right answer. I'll give you one simple example. Early in my career, I had a very classic technical and business background. I had a product management role, and I actually went from that to becoming I took a pay cut, became a bag-carrying, quota-carrying salesperson, entry level, in a country that I'd only lived in for a few years. And at the end, I learned a lot about myself, more so than about of course I learned about the business, but I learned a lot about myself, and I came out with this knowing that I have the confidence to take on other challenges. So I think that's really, there is no single linear path to becoming a global leader.
Perhaps I can rephrase the question a little bit. Is there anything that we need to do at a first level manager or a second level manager? Because sometimes engineers find it a little awkward to network above their manager. How do you network to senior managers, like the vice presidents? How would that be perceived? And is the complexity different if you are a women leader? When will we see 3 women panelists and one gentleman as a panel leader, right? So when will C-suite become she-suite, right? All these questions are there in different sections. So perhaps you can throw a little bit light on how to break these. I combined all those questions in one because all these are perceptions and mental blocks that we need to go beyond to become a successful global leader.
You bring up a very good point here again, Richard, because the onus to make that change lies both with the manager as well as with the employee. It is the duty of the manager to kind of look for what is the next development path for the people that they're managing, and knowing that it is not one size fits all, right? So even in leadership roles, you've got, as Surya was saying, as Sarv was saying, as Deepak was saying, there are different languages of leadership. There are people who go on to be sales leaders, and there's a skill set that you need there. There are people who become technology leaders, and that's a different skill set. So it's not always the same skill set. And then for a manager to know what is the best fit for somebody that they're managing and coaching them along that path, there's a duty there. But equally, I feel there is a duty with the employees to know what they're seeking next. If they're seeking to be a leader, they should ask themselves why, right? What is motivating me? What am I expecting my career to be different? And again, am I willing to think beyond myself? Because leadership, as I said, is a team sport. So while there is a lot of winning together, occasionally they'll be losing together, and you have to have the maturity to be able to do that and take that.
Yeah, Vijay, I want to go back to
Sure.
what you said. The gap between what we feel and what the engineers
Yeah.
feel. I think that does exist.
Okay.
And if the engineers feel it's a fair, situation. I mean, what they feel is very fair. Most of what we do here is really the inbound, what comes down from headquarters in terms of training, leadership, whatever. But our context is different, our aspirations are different. What the company set up, we do have bigger aspirations, and we haven't done enough to enable ourselves, enough to equip ourselves to, go after our aspirations. That's why the gap is. And, things like, for example, in my experience in the current company, one of our stakeholders that was very willing to support us, hey, fine, your aspiration is good, show me a guy or a leader that has that. Have you guys dealt enough of very critical customer situations or very tricky customer situations? Show me the people, right? So those sort of things it's a chicken and egg situation. Those sort of things don't happen, if you don't have the kind of exposure or kind of situation. And without that kind of leaders or folks, you can't effectively deal with it as well. So how do you bridge? So that situation warranted us to go put together a program to simulate tricky, a really tough customer situation for our folks to get exposed to. We don't do enough of those kind of development, work to build capability to, given our context. And all we're looking for is what comes down. We don't do enough to push that, our own agenda, our own training, our own, given our situation.
Thank you, sir.
I wanted to bring out a fundamental disconnect, right? And that is the aspect of talent versus attitude, right? If you think about, just take this room for example, right? This is probably the top 10% of the talent that you could find, but if you look at in terms of the talent that is there, how much of a difference in talent are you going to find in this room? There's not a lot of difference in a person sitting, in one seat to the next seat, what would have you, especially if you look in the function, right? What makes the difference, I believe, is the attitude. And we have to think about it. It's not that just the talent that's going to take you all the way along. It's actually the attitude that makes the difference in terms of being or taking that, step to that leadership. What are you going to? What are you willing to do to be successful? Right? I could ask a very simple question in terms of, how many people sleep for 8 hours, in this room? If you want to show your hand, how many people sleep for 6 to 8 hours, let's say, in this room, right?
6? Is that for 6 or 8?
But are you willing to actually sleep for 2 hours to be successful on a consistent basis? If you look at those people who are extremely successful, right? It's not about their talent just because the talent they have. It's about the attitude to be successful.
Thank you, Deepak. I don't have any hope then. I need to sleep at least 6 hours. All right, let's change gears a little bit. One of the, how many of you here believe your leaders take tough decisions against global headquarters? Raise your hands. It's very few hands go up. So this is one of the significant findings of our study. They think leadership is just needs I'm going to be brutally honest with you, means being nice to global leaders, be very polite and humble, just somehow get things done. How many of you here have operated outside that model? Can you give one example where you just went brave and strong and said, you know what, this is wrong, this is the right way to do it, and get it done?
Yeah, so I do think that's it's very important to make sure that the global leaders have both information and respect and understand the capabilities of the team in India. I'll give you one example of pushing back. One of my colleagues has a small team, and in my last couple of interactions, we talked about what makes sense for that team to do. And finally, I came to the conclusion that there are two different teams. One is a strategic, where the GIC plays a strategic role in that leader's plans, and the other one doesn't. And I actively managed out, meaning on my own accord, managed out that other organization. And the reason is, at the end, if you're not strategic, then by definition, you will get someone telling me the outbound coming in, and you'll never have the opportunity to innovate and to own. And if you don't have those, then of course you don't have that. You don't have the potential for leadership. And I do think having a seat at the table helps a lot with the global leadership.
What does that mean, having a seat at the table? What does that in practical terms?
In practical terms, well, so I'll give you in my own case. So I report to the guy who's the president of we have two presidents in the company, I report to one of them. And so it means that I'm in a position where I can say no, I can help set strategy. And my team, the VPs and my team, also participate, again, at a global level with each of the general managers and business unit. So they're helping set strategy and helping own the delivery and the execution. But to Sarv's point, you cannot just stand up and make the claim. You actually have to have the capability before you can actually participate.
So, I think just to supplement, Surya, you don't have to take a tough stance. The question is really, do you have the sophistication to kind of put together an argument that is so compelling that they have to listen to you and do what is right for the business? And
so it's not,
when I say sophistication, what it means is, of course, you need to have the right level of network connections to the table. That's important, but you have the presence to make, to make use of it. With the kind of business argument needed, data, and why is it important for the business? You got to do this way, and you don't do that enough. And whenever we took that approach, we have been successful because of the results that we wanted. For example, early last year, we have 5 locations in Asia for us, our data centers, and every one of them, as you know, fight for the latest toy. And so, how do we deal with that situation? We want to make sure that everyone does something good, everyone is known for something deeper, a brand associated with every one of those centers, and that's a strategy that we put together, and that resonates also about it. It's about what you take back to corporate in terms of your proposal, argument, and for the benefit of the business.
If I may add something, Vijay, right? One of the things I want to communicate to those who are sort of feeling that upper management, they're all yes men or yes women, is probably that most companies, when they're selecting leaders beyond a certain point, they're looking for people who will speak up. I can say that for myself, right? When I'm recruiting people that report to me, I'm looking for people who actively share their opinion. If I wanted to have someone that agreed with me all the time, then I would just sit in a room with a mirror, right? The reason you surround yourself with highly capable leaders is because you value their opinion, and that's true at every level. Okay. And so what might be coming across, or where it's being perceived as, hey, this person's just a mouthpiece, they're saying whatever's coming top down, they may not be seeing the part where there is a different boardroom conversation. There is a back and forth of an idea. There is a consensus that's built on what is right and that needs to be done at the end of the day. And then there's something that's being implemented by the leadership team. And so I think maybe part of it is also for leaders to kind of share that there's some communication but we don't necessarily wash all the dirty laundry in public and say who said what and where the disagreements were. What the rank and file sees is maybe the final unified.
One thing to add to that, I think there's a fundamental objective. If the team, the GIC thinks, the leader thinks, my job is to bring more jobs and have a larger team, that leads to the kind of mentality of becoming almost like a service to the organization. And I think that's the wrong model. It's about what impact do I have on the business? I don't care if it's one person or 1,000 people.
Thank you so much. We're going to take one or two questions from the audience. Please keep your questions precise so that we can take advantage of the time. Anyone have any questions for the panel?
Yeah, to the left.
Oh, yeah.
Great discussion. I think there are a lot of points which you guys talk about. But what about cultural awareness, global cultural awareness, especially when you are managing different teams across the pole? Some of the points, our ability to interpret them, and also from the other side. I think, in my personal opinion, cultural awareness at all levels in the teams is extremely important.
So only one of you can answer this. I give it to the lady. Maybe Anita, you can respond.
No, I agree that the language of leadership, when we say, and that's the topic of our discussion here, communication is the key. And of course, being aware of the cultural context is very critical to having the right communication. So the language of business is ultimately what we're trying to all execute to, right? We have common expectations in terms of our P&L statements and return on investments and so forth. And then the communication has to have the cultural awareness in the context. So what might be right in one context will absolutely not be right in the other. And that's very important.
And I think it's great, like in the leadership programs within your company or in general, it's good to include that element. Different countries, how they think it. It will be good for the awareness from the initial entry-level leadership to the top level.
Okay, thank you so much. As Pari mentioned in his keynote, it's battle time for leaders, engineers, aspiring leaders, everybody. Really, what would be your one advice to existing global leaders and wannabe global leaders? If you can just go around and say, what is the one thing they need to do today to get better at what they are doing?
So my advice would be to take more risks, to be more comfortable with ambiguity, and that comes with the risk taking.
Right, Sarv?
I would say we don't invest enough to understand the organization's vision or purpose, and as you do that, you will equip yourself with the right capabilities to make a difference to it, and that will mean a whole lot to your career.
I would say put yourself in front of customers. Doesn't matter if it's an estimation, if it's a communication, whatever it might be. There is no better education than actually knowing what problem you're trying to solve.
Deepak?
My advice to all of you would be, be responsible and don't be a victim. It's very easy to be a victim. If you are responsible for everything that you do and don't expect for somebody else, to do everything for you, and then, worry about, if something happened to you, it's because of you and not because of somebody else, right? So don't be a victim, be responsible.
Thank you. It's a real privilege and honor to moderate this. When you have a panel like this, you can just keep going, right, for hours. Hopefully you got a few things. Hopefully our approach helped you learn a few practical tips. Really appreciate your patience, and coming back after coffee is always tough. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you.
Thank you.